start our discussion is from multivariate calculus, because as I told you earlier that we are not going to discuss single variable calculus, and you will be doing that by yourself, and if you need any help then we'll be discussing those things. So the main idea in this multivariate calculus would be to discuss multivariate limits, like how can you evaluate limits in the case of a function which depends upon more than one independent variables, and we have to define what do we mean by the derivatives in the case of a multivariate function, and what is going to be the integration. In multivariate integration simply means double integration and triple integration and so on, and what are their applications. So we are going to start our discussion from vectors and defining the dot and cross product of vectors, because when we are going towards multivariate calculus we'll deal with the vectors. If we are going to deal with vectors, then we must know that what is going to be the dot product and what is going to be the cross product. So what is the idea of the dot product of two vectors? Vectors and products defined on them. So the first thing is that what is a vector? What is our particular perception about a vector? Because this thing is very much important.
Yes.
Assign cover, it has like magnitude. Magnitude means length. Length of a vector is something that is preserved. And what do I mean by this? That you cannot change the length of a vector in whatever coordinate system you are. Coordinate system, whether you are going to translate your coordinate system, whether you are going to some other coordinate systems, the magnitude of your vector is going to be preserved. What is the other thing? The direction of a vector. But in a particular coordinate system, the direction of a vector is fixed. But if you are going to rotate your coordinate system, then obviously the direction of your vector will be changed according to that coordinate system. But like the vector itself will be having the same direction. Vector ji direction change nathi, but according to your coordinate system, the vector ji direction change thi sakedi. What do I mean by this? If I consider this particular quantity to be a vector, one thing is that its length is whatever it is. You are not going to make it half by using any type of transformations in your coordinates. In a vector touch okay, if you are going to multiply this vector with 2, length double thing. Second thing is its direction. For example, it's pointing upwards, then its direction will be the same as it is. But what you can do with this, you can take it anywhere. Translate के direction में करे सकूँ. vector इतने पे हुआ, इन्हें खनी करे ता आते रखो. शर्त हुआ, its magnitude should be same and its direction should be same. You cannot do this thing. You cannot rotate it. लेकिन इतना rotate क्यों? तने जो direction ये कौन change की विदो. So this is the main difference between what we call a scalar is and what we call a vector is. In a scalar we only preserve the magnitude and we are not concerned about the direction because a scalar has no direction. But in a vector we are concerned about these two things. मुझे चाहने जो मतलब सिर्फ हिकड़ो यो या when we are going to do some sort of calculations in some sort of R3 space, माने कि ये vector आहे मोटे. Let's name it vector B. Then I can take this vector and I can translate it in any direction. I can take it upwards, downwards, I can take it left, I can take it right, and whatever direction I like. माना जितने माने कि खणी वजन चाहें, ऐसा को फर्क न पड़े. शर्ती हुआ तो जी का length था, it should not change, its direction should not change. Yes, this is the concept here. माना है ना कि खणी करे जिकने इन्हें coordinate systems attach किया, so he जो कौन origin का start तो थे. And it ends here, so this is our vector, let's say v1 or v जो कुछ चौंस. So जगह वो के coordinate systems attach तो वो I think है ना vector कैसा free vector चलाऊँ.
position vector.
इन्हें कैसा चलाऊँ position vector. ठीक है. So main concept ये हुआ कि भाई जे के vectors and these are same. There is no difference because their magnitude is same and their direction is same. Direction same is horizontal axis सां वो angle केड़ी तो ठाए. इहा जेका शइ आहे इहा असांखे अॻिते हली घणो कमु ईंदी. इन जो मतिलबु आहे त को बि वेक्टर आहे we can take it anywhere, we can translate it in any direction. We are going to translate it in positive x axis or negative x, positive y or negative y, positive z or negative z. We can take it anywhere. So we are not going to discuss this particular thing, but we are going to define one product, what we call the dot product of two vectors. What is your idea?
this vector में multiply होता जो को है
result is a
scalar quantity.
So
magnitude
What's the angle between two vectors? Okay, so some people define the dot product in this way. Like your v1 vector is going to be, if I'm going to denote these symbols that I'm going to like denote vector, yeah, ij के components लिया. So this is, let me call this u. So it should be u1, u2 and u3, and this is v. So v1, v2 and v3. And what is their dot product? It is simply these components multiplied.
Yes sir.
These components multiplied. v1, u1 times v1 plus u2 times v2 plus u3 times v3, or we can define it in this sense, like magnitude of u or norm of u, norm of v.
yes.
The norm में क्यों magnitude क्यों होता है times cos theta. Means this is vector u, this is vector v, and there is some sort of angle between them. Then we can define their dot product in this way or in this way. But the question is, why two ways? It means what way we are going to apply when we are going to deal with some sort of calculations. Dot product is now. Dot product is simply the product of corresponding components and their sum. Or in other words, dot product is the length of vector u times the length of vector v times the cosine of the angle between those two vectors. But the question is, why these two and which one should we take? And why these two definitions? And simply out of these, one is a definition and another is some sort of corollary out of that definition. हिकिड़ी हिन मां definition आहे ऐं ॿी हुन जी corollary आहे. It's nothing else.
मेरे में विक्रो ये था क्यों शायद उन्हें component सेट था क्यों
हेठी definition आ मथी हुन जी कोलो.
It's a heटी definition.
Yes.
And okay, if it is a definition, then the corollary or something that we are going to deduce should be deduced from that.
Yes.
हिन मां इहे शइ deduce कीअं कजे? लेकिन माना हुन मां असां उहा शइ ड्राइव करे सघूं, then it should be possible to drive this thing out of this. We can do this by taking their components I, j and k and defining what should be the dot product between I and I, what should be the dot product between I and j and I and k and so on, and j and j, j and k, j and I and so on. But I'm going to do some sort of other calculations that will help us to understand this thing in a good way.
Yes.
So that is, this is vector u with the components u1, u2, u3. This is vector v with the components v1, v2, v3. What do you call this vector? Resultant, or what should be this out of these two? U minus v or v minus u?
U minus v.
About u minus they or v minus u they. I am concerned about their
Direction.
concerned about their length.
Yes sir.
And u minus v u j, yeah, v minus u. The length is same.
length is always positive r0
Length is always positive.
r0
Like if you take the length of a vector v and length of a vector minus v, I'm talking about vectors, it will always be same. Chakana directions minus में change थी वेंदो आहे. So can you tell me any formula from trigonometry which relates these three things? I have a triangle with three sides. One side is this, another side is this, third side is this, and opposite to this side I have an angle theta. If you have these informations, can you put these all the informations in a single formula which is taught in first year trigonometry. Science law, cosines law.
Sine law.
What is cosines law?
You can say that.
जेकॾहिं हिन खे मां नालो ॾियां A, हिन खे नालो ॾियां B, हिन खे नालो ॾियां C, ऐं हिन एंगल खे मां चवां gamma. You know very well the formula. C square is equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB
Cos gamma.
cos gamma.
Cos gamma.
So I am going to convert this in the case of U, V and U minus V and theta.
Yes, sir.
So what is C? It is the mod of U minus V squared. What is A? It
V
is
square.
mod of
V square.
V squared, and this is
Mod of U square.
mod of U squared minus 2 mod of U
Mod of
and mod of V and
cos theta.
cos of
Theta.
theta.
Yes.
Okay. हिन जे mod जो square छा थींदो? What is going to be the length of a vector?
V square.
ही तव्हां जो वेक्टर आहे हिन जी लेंथ छा थींदी आहे? स्क्वायर रूट में v1 स्क्वायर
Yes, sir.
plus v2 square
Yes,
plus
sir.
v3 square. Square root, and that square root is going to be cancelled in this square.
Yes, sir.
So what I will get only v1 square plus v2 square plus
V3 square.
v3 square. And similarly this would be
Same.
u1 square plus
U2 square.
u2 square plus u3 square minus 2 mod of u mod of v cos theta. What is going to be this vector? This is, I subtract v from u. It means it would be u1 minus v1, u2 minus v2, u3 minus v3. This is the vector. I am going to find its mod and then I am going to square it.
Square.
What would it be? Will it be this particular quantity? Means u1 minus v1 square
Square.
plus u2 minus
V2.
v2 square plus u3 minus
V3.
v3 square.
Square.
Will it be this only?
Yes, sir. Square. Square.
Only you have to subtract these. That would be the vector u minus v. This is the subtraction. And then I am going to find its mod. It means I will square every
Square.
component.
Yes, sir.
Then I will give a square root, but that square root, whole square root will be cancelled.
Cancel with this. Yes.
Okay, what you need to do now? You square this. What should be the answer?
U square we cut zero.
What is the square of this? What is u1? It's a number. It's not a vector. It's a number. A square minus 2ab plus b square. You know very well.
Yes, sir.
You will get u1 square here.
V1 square.
You will get v1 square here.
V1 square.
That u1 square and v1 square will be cancelled in
Cancelled.
this. u1 square, v1 square and u1 square.
V1 square.
From here you will get u2 square and v2 square, which will be
Cancelled.
cancelled in this.
Yes, sir.
From here you will get u3 square and v3 square,
Square.
which will cancel in this. But from these all the three things there will be one term left. What is that?
Twice.
Twice the product.
Minus 2 common.
u1 v1, okay, minus 2 common, plus u2 v2 plus u3 v3 is equal to minus 2, and the length of u, the length of v times cosine theta. Minus 2 cancel,
Yes.
and I can write one thing is, okay, let me keep it same. u2 v2 plus u3 v3 is equal to length of u, length of v, cosine theta. What is this now?
We can only use the way probability.
Yes, basically this is the way to find out this angle theta. Where we started from? We started from this triangle. It means we basically used this, what we call the law of cosines. With the help of law of cosines, we are here. Now just I am going to name this quantity u dot v, or the dot product of two vectors. I am going to name this quantity. It means this particular thing is defined in this way.
This way.
There are some books or some authors who define the dot product in this way. Okay, u dot v is u1 v1 plus u2 v2 plus u3 v3. And the other definition which we say that okay, the dot product between two vectors is length of u and length of v times cosine theta is derived from this particular thing.
Yes, sir.
So हिन शइ खे लिखण जो जेको शॉर्ट हैंड वे आहे वो ही आहे जेके असां चवंदा डॉट प्रोडक्ट बिटवीन टू वेक्टर्स. Now the question is, what does this dot product tell?
सर वही मतलब है डिवीजन जैसे कि यानी u और v वेक्टर हर कंपोनेंट ऐड क्यों था
बिल्कुल
वो हमने जो प्रोडक्ट लेंथ की प्रोडक्ट सा जो एंगल पूरे बराबर होती
बिल्कुल.
फिर ये दो
पर ही ताने से बुधा this thing comes from
राइट
cosine's law. जेकॾहिं असां हिन शइ खे न सम्झण जी कोशिशि कयूं न ई सम्झूं हिन शइ खे असां छॾे ॾियूं then we are reaching the same conclusion. असां साॻे conclusion ते वञी पहुचूं था त बाबा इहा शइ हिन जे बराबरि आहे with the help of this law. इन जो मतिलबु आहे त हीअ जेका डॉट प्रोडक्ट आहे जेके असां हीउ नालो ॾिनो आहे डॉट प्रोडक्ट, it is equal to this particular thing. So in this way I am going to define that dot product is the sum of the product of components u2 v2. So this is the definition of dot product, and when I put this definition in this formula then I will get this formula. So this is according to some authors, not me, this is not the definition, but the definition is this. Multivariate calculus जो को किताब पढ़ो, this is going to be the definition. I am going to apply this definition, then I am going to reach at this particular formula. So हाणे यो question आहे त ये dot product असां खे ॿुधाए छा थी. What does it tell basically? And what is dot product between two vectors? And when is going to be the dot product maximum? या quantity maximum कॾहिं हूंदी?
0 angle 0.
So this vector is, let's say, vector u, and this vector is vector v. The dot product between these two vectors will be the length of u, length of v times cosine theta. हाणे ही डॉट प्रोडक्ट जेको हूंदो इहो स्केलर नंबर हूंदो, ठीकु आहे. इहो बराबरि आहे u जी लेंथ v जी लेंथ मल्टीप्लाइड बाय cos थीटा. हाणे हिन शइ खे असां मैक्सिमाइज कॾहिं था करे सघूं जॾहिं असां हिन शइ जो वैल्यू घणो खणंदासीं 1 खणंदासीं, न थीट cos थीटा जो वैल्यू 1 खणंदासीं. छा हिन cos थीटा जो मैक्सिमम वैल्यू छा आहे 1 आहे, मिनिमम वैल्यू छा आहे -1. हिन जो वैल्यू 1 कॾहिं थींदो जॾहिं एंगल जेका हूंदी उहा 0 हूंदी. माना जॾहिं वेक्टर्स मुंहिंजा पैरेलल आहिनि, पैरेलल जो इहो मतिलबु न आहे त v हिते पियो आहे त u हिन जे मथां ई पियो हुजे. पैरेलल जो मतिलबु ही बि थी सघे थो दिस इज वेक्टर u and this is vector v. And what is the angle between these two vectors? 0. हाणे तव्हांखे इहो नज़र ईंदो त एंगल त हिन में का बि कोन्हे, पर उहो ई कॉन्सेप्ट आहे जेको मां तव्हांखे ॿुधायो. ही वेक्टर आहे तव्हांजो, तव्हां हिनखे खणी करे हिते पहुचायो त जेके कोइंसिडेंट रेज हूंदा उन्हनि जे विच में एंगल 0 हूंदी आहे. So इन जो मतिलबु आहे if they go into the same direction their dot product will take the maximum value. So dot product असांखे इहा शइ ॿुधाईंदी आहे त ॿ वेक्टर्स केतिरो हिक ॿिए जे डायरेक्शन में वञनि था, meaning how u goes into the direction of v and how much v goes into the direction of u. And when it is going to be like minimum तॾहिं हूंदी जॾहिं हीअ क्वांटिटी छा थी वञे मिनिमम एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यू जे सेंस में नेगेटिव न वठो असां, हीअ जॾहिं थी वञे 0. ऐं cos थीटा जो वैल्यू 0 कॾहिं थींदो जॾहिं एंगल तव्हांजी माना हिकिड़ो वेक्टर तव्हांजो हीअं हूंदो ऐं ॿियो वेक्टर तव्हांजो हीअ हूंदो. दिस इज योर वेक्टर v and this is u and v and the angle between them is pi by 2. अच्छा हे 0 इन जे करे बि थिए थो त असां ही जेका शइ ॾिसंदा आहियूं mod of v cos थीटा, इहो असल में हिन v जो ही जेको कंपोनेंट हूंदो आहे उनखे असां चवंदा आहियूं. ही थींदो या ही थींदो हिन जो? I think it will be this component.
effective component आहे.
yes माना v जो horizontal component असां ॾिसंदा आहियूं हाणे मूंखे माना हुनजी v खे असां हेठि प्रोजेक्ट कंदा आहियूं माना हिते मां का लाइट हणां ऐं v जो जेको पाछो ठहे जेको असां छा चवंदासीं इमेज शेडो चऊं जेको हेठि ठहे उहो ॾिसंदासीं हाणे मूंखे ॿुधायो मां हिते का बत्ती पकड़े बीहां त हिन वेक्टर जो जेको शेडो ठहंदो उहो हिकिड़ी पॉइंट ठहंदी ऐं पॉइंट जी मैथमेटिकली लेंथ घणी हूंदी आहे 0 हूंदी आहे सो हीअ तव्हांजी पर्टिकुलर क्वांटिटी छा थी वेंदी 0 थींदी and 0 multiplied by anything would be 0 so when the angle is pi by 2 this thing will be equal to 0 and we call these two vectors to be perpendicular or orthogonal to each other so इन मतलब इहो हूंदो आहे त ॿ वेक्टर्स हिक ॿिए जे डायरेक्शन में केतिरो वञनि था if they are perpendicular it means their direction is totally different जेकॾहिं उहो थोरो बि टिल्ट आहे त उहो तव्हांजे असांजी जेका क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट आहे उहा वधि खां वधि थींदी वेंदी जीअं इहो टिल्ट असांजो वधंदो वेंदो जीअं 0 थींदो the dot product is going to be maximum and जीअं ही वेक्टर इन अपोजिट डायरेक्शन में वेंदो then dot product is going to be negative छाकाणि त इहा नेगेटिव छो थी थिए this is u and this is v हिन जी प्रोजेक्शन काॾे थी ठहे this is your mod of v cos theta and u g and mod of v cos theta जेका डायरेक्शन आहे उहा अपोजिट थी वञे असां चवंदा त v u जे डायरेक्शन में केतिरो थो वञे असां चवंदा बाबा ही वञे ई नथो they are going in opposite direction so the dot product would be negative in this sense so this is a simple and short discussion about dot product and now the next idea is what is cross product and how can we define it and what does it tell but you can apply this thing to do all the things like you can find out what is I dot I जेकॾहिं तव्हां को बि coordinate system खणो with let's say I but I think this would be I J and K जेके असांजा यूनिट वेक्टर्स आहिनि then what would be I dot I
1
I dot I would be
1
length of I or magnitude of I cos of 0 सेकंड I ऐं I जे विच में एंगल 0 I जी लेंथ छा आहे 1 ना I जी लेंथ छा आहे 1 ना cos 0 1 ना so this whole will be equal to 1 so हिन में सिर्फ तव्हां उहे सभु वैल्यूज पुट करे इहे शयूं मालूम करे सघो था similarly I dot J would be 0 ठीक है
yes sir
okay ji let us go ahead to define cross product okay ji what is the definition जीअं ही फॉर्मूला असां डेवलप कयोसीं जंहिंमें ॿिन्ही शयुनि खे असां रिलेट कयोसीं to develop such a formula in this case is very much complicated but if you want to see you can go to I think math stake exchange on Google you can search it and you will see the whole derivation के हिते बि असांजूं जेके ॿ definitions आहिनि या ॿ formulas आहिनि उनखे असां कीअं था relate करे सघूं I think we define cross product in such a way that I think I cross I would be 0 and I cross J would be K and so on
yes,
but I am not coming to that I am writing two vectors let's say U and V how will you find the parallelogram made by these two vectors and its area लेकिन हिन ॿिन्ही वेक्टर्स खे मां मिलाए करे हिकिड़ो पैरेललोग्राम सेट कयां उनजी एरिया कीअं थी ॻोल्हे सघिजे parallelogram means this thing I think it's a parallelogram
yes sir
parallelogram area formula छा हूंदो
width and height
half of
parallelogram base
yes sir
into height it means base त मूंखे ख़बर आहे ऐं हीअ हाइट आहे हाणे हीअ जी लेंथ घणी थींदी इहा थींदी this length of V times sin theta ऐं हिन जी लेंथ घणी थींदी mod of u हो वेक्टर थी पर लेंथ असां हुन जी इहा कढंदासीं so if I want the area of this parallelogram this would be equal to length of u and length of V times sine of theta. This would be the area of this parallelogram. So simply I am going to write A of this parallelogram. Now can you see something which is related to the cross product? Cross product के formula में कुछ एडिशन हो गया ये है ना u cross v equal to mod of u mod of v times
Sin theta.
sin theta
into
Unit vector.
Into?
Unit vector.
and y.
now vector generating one.
Yes.
No.
Basically, cross product means you have two vectors, and their cross product will be such a vector which is orthogonal or perpendicular to these two vectors. मतलब कि तव्हां ॿिनि वेक्टर्स जी क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट कढो था त हिन क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट जो जवाब अहिड़ो वेक्टर हूंदो जेको हिन ॿिन्ही सां perpendicular हूंदो, like mutually orthogonal to both of these. Now the problem is, one problem is the he vector जी डायरेक्शन ये मथे वञे या हेठि वञे. Like this should go like this or this should go like this. Orthogonal त ॿई आहिनि,
Yes.
but you will use the right hand rule. I think तव्हांखे ख़बर हूंदी. Right hand rule जे मुताबिक़ जेकॾहिं I think हीअं को हूंदो आहे, this is your vector u and vector v ऐं हीअ तव्हांजो अपवर्ड हुनजो हूंदो u cross v.
Yes.
ऐं हिनखे तव्हां जीअं रोटेट कयो त तव्हां यूज़ राइट हैंड कंदव. This is your v, this is your u and this is your v, and this would be the direction of u cross v. हिनखे असां चवंदा आहियूं राइट हैंड सिस्टम या राइट हैंड रूल चवंदा आहियूं. ठीकु आहे, त डायरेक्शन जो त असांजो झगड़ो कोन्हे, माना जेकॾहिं ॿ वेक्टर्स आहिनि जी क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट वाई ही थींदो. The other problem related to this is what should be the length of this vector. So ना हिन जे opposite में जेकॾहिं माना हिन खां हिननि ॿिन्ही सां orthogonal मां को वेक्टर खां हुनजी डायरेक्शन त हीअ थी वई. But what should be the length of this vector? Either should be this, this or this or this. What? So basically u cross v is a vector n,
Yes, sir.
and this is a unit vector. And its length जेका न हुआ 1 only.
Okay.
This is a vector n in the direction of
U cross
the orthogonality to these.
to this.
माना ही अहिड़ो वेक्टर हूंदो जेको यूनिट वेक्टर हूंदो ऐं हिन ॿिन्ही जे छा हूंदो orthogonal हूंदो या perpendicular. हाणे हिन जी लेंथ केतिरी हुजे? इन जी लेंथ हूंदी एरिया ऑफ दिस पैराग्राम जे बराबर. माना हिन जी लेंथ एतिरी हूंदी जेतिरी हे ॿई u ऐं v वेक्टर्स एरिया था ठाहिनि. जेतिरी बि एरिया ठाहींदा, whether it is 2, 3, 5, उन वेक्टर जी जेका लेंथ आहे उहा ओतिरी ऐं हुन जे बराबर हूंदी. ठीकु आहे. So you can define this cross product into this way, what we call mod of u, mod of v, sin theta times this unit vector which is perpendicular to both u and v. छाकाणि त वेक्टर जॾहिं बि असां डिफाइन कंदासीं या को नओं वेक्टर जनरेट कंदासीं, we'll always ask two questions: what is the direction and what is the magnitude. जेकॾहिं असां डायरेक्शन जी ॻाल्हि कयूं, this is such a vector which is orthogonal to both of these, but in such a sense that it follows right hand rule. जेकॾहिं orthogonal त उहो माना हिक डायरेक्शन में वेंदो ऐं ॿिए डायरेक्शन में वेंदो, and we'll take that direction which is satisfying right hand rule.
Yes, sir.
Second thing, माना हिते असांजो डायरेक्शन जो झगड़ो हल थी वियो, and the second thing is what should be the magnitude. So magnitude जो झगड़ो थींदो ही, the magnitude would be the same as the area of this particular parallelogram. Okay, so ॿी हिकिड़ी डेफिनेशन छा थींदी आहे, असां हिकिड़ो I think determinant सेट कंदा आहियूं ऐं हुन में आई जे के रखंदा आहियूं ऐं हुनखे सॉल्व कंदा आहियूं त असांखे जेको आहे हुनजी क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट मिलंदी आहे. लाइक हिन जा कंपोनेंट्स उहे ई हुजनि u1 v1 sorry u1 u2 u3 v1 v2 v3, then you can define it in this way: ijk and u1 u2 u3 and v1 v2 v3, and simply the answer you determinant kadano, that would be the answer. Like ye I rakhna se asan, then ye row and column asan cancel kare hi jagah multiply karna, that would be u2 and v3 minus u3 and v2 and so on. So this is simply the determinant that you can do, and you can relate these two definitions by some sort of lengthy proof that you can see. हिन में का वॾी ॻाल्हि कोन्हे, पर हिन में कम से कम इहा अंडरस्टैंडिंग हुजे त क्रॉस प्रोडक्ट जो मतिलबु छा आहे and what it is going to tell us. Okay, what should be I cross I? 0 रीजन यो I ऐं I जे विच में एंगल छा थींदी 0 ऐं sin 0 छा जे बराबर 0 but this 0 would be 0 vector
Yes.
Zero
null
null
vector.
or null vector
null
ठीक आहे माने इहो 0 हिकु नंबर न हूंदो इहो वेक्टर हूंदो
vector
ऐं हिकिड़ो स्केलर ऐं वेक्टर में असां ज़ाहिरी ॻाल्हि आहे फ़र्क़ु सम्झी सघूं
yes
and what would be I cross J
k
K.
K छाकाणि I ऐं J जेकॾहिं असां खणूं त जेको ऑर्थोगोनल सां हूंदो उहो K हूंदो त हिते असां n जी जाइ ते छा रखंदासीं K रखंदासीं बाक़ी ही क्वांटिटीज़ तव्हां जेकॾहिं मेजर कंदव त हिन जो जवाबु घणो थींदो 1 so K times 1 would be K okay so what should be J cross I
minus k
minus K why
Direction.
डायरेक्शन में जो
Direction.
बाक़ी हुन जी लेंथ जेका आहे उहा साॻी रहंदी
yes